Back on their home planet, the aliens found themselves changed in ways they hadn't anticipated. The bustling cities and sterile corridors of their academy felt unfamiliar now, almost too quiet after the chaos and vitality of Earth. Zix, Vren, and Kale struggled to adjust to the predictability of their daily routines, their minds still filled with memories of the Deathworld's untamed beauty and its resilient inhabitants. During their debriefing, the three aliens recounted their experiences to their instructors and fellow students. They spoke of Alex and Mia, their bravery, their resourcefulness, and their willingness to help strangers. They described Earth's harsh landscapes, its unpredictable weather, and the constant need for adaptation. But most importantly, they shared lessons about humanity's strength, not physical power or advanced technology, but the ability to endure, adapt, and care for one another. At first, their peers were skeptical. "Humans are primitive," one student scoffed. "How could they teach you anything we don't already know?" Zix stepped forward, his multifaceted eyes glowing with conviction. "They taught us how to survive without relying on machines," he explained. "They showed us that true strength comes from working together and facing challenges head-on." Vren added, "We learned that kindness is a kind of strength too. On Earth, people helped each other even when there was nothing to gain." Kale held up the crystal device Zix had given to Mia. "And this is proof of what we brought back, a gift from humans. It symbolizes trust, gratitude, and connection." The room fell silent as the other students absorbed their words. For beings used to living in controlled environments, where every problem had a technological solution, the idea of thriving in such a dangerous world was both humbling and inspiring. In the weeks that followed, the alien stories spread throughout their society. People began to see Earth and humanity in a new light. What had once been dismissed as a primitive species struggling to survive was now viewed as a remarkable example of resilience and ingenuity. Some even began to question whether their own reliance on technology had made them complacent, shielding them from the very challenges that could make them stronger. Zix, Vren, and Kale became known as the Earth Explorers, celebrated not just for their journey, but for the wisdom they brought back. They often gathered groups of students to share tales of Alex and Mia, emphasizing the importance of courage, teamwork, and compassion. Their lectures became some of the most popular at the Academy, drawing crowds eager to hear about the Deathworlders who had captured their imaginations. One day, while walking through the Academy's gardens, Zix paused to examine a small flower growing near a fountain. Its petals reminded him of the wildflowers Cal had marveled at during their first days on Earth. He smiled faintly, remembering how much they had all grown since then. "Do you think we'll ever go back?" Vren asked, joining him. Zix shrugged. "Maybe someday," he replied. "But even if we don't, Earth will always be part of us. Its lessons will stay with us forever." Kale approached, holding a book he had borrowed from the library. It was filled with stories of human explorers, people who had ventured into the unknown, facing danger and uncertainty with unwavering determination. "I've been reading about their history," he said. "Humans have always pushed boundaries, no matter the cost. That's why they're so extraordinary." As they stood there, surrounded by the familiar comforts of their home, the aliens realized that Earth had left an indelible mark on them. It had taught them to embrace challenges, value relationships, and find strength in simplicity. And though they would never forget their time on the Deathworld, they also knew that its spirit lived on, not just in their memories, but in the way they chose to live their lives moving forward. Far away, on Earth, Alex and Mia continued their work, unaware of the impact they had made. They went about their days tracking animals, treating injuries, and helping those in need. But sometimes, when they looked up at the stars, they wondered if the aliens were watching them too. And perhaps somewhere among the constellations, Zix, Vren, and Kale were doing the same, grateful for the bond they had forged and hopeful that the lessons of Earth would inspire others to face the universe with courage and heart. The aliens' time on Earth was coming to an end. Their shuttle had been repaired, thanks to Alex and Mia's help, and they were preparing for departure. But before leaving, the group decided to spend one last evening together at Alex's cabin. The air was heavy with a mix of emotions, gratitude, curiosity, and a tinge of sadness. As they sat around the fire, the aliens reflected on everything they had learned during their stay. Zix spoke first, his voice soft but sincere. "When we arrived here, we thought humans were primitive," he admitted. "But now I see that your strength comes from something deeper than machines or tools." Mia smiled, her green eyes glowing in the firelight. "Humans have always adapted to survive," she said. "We don't have all the answers, but we keep trying. That's what keeps us going." Vren nodded, her antennae twitching faintly. "You've shown us how to face challenges without relying on technology," he added. "Back home, we take so much for granted. Here, every decision matters." Kale looked down at his injured arm, still resting in the sling Mia had made. "And you've taught us about kindness," he said quietly. "You helped us, even though we're strangers. That's rare where we come from." Alex chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "Maybe it should be more common everywhere," he replied. "Helping each other is what makes life worth living." The conversation turned lighter as they shared stories and laughter. Alex told jokes that had everyone, even the usually serious Vren, giggling uncontrollably. Maya showed them how to roast marshmallows over the fire, explaining that sweetness could make tough times feel a little easier. The aliens tried the sticky treats hesitantly at first, but soon they were reaching for seconds, their faces lighting up with delight. But the peaceful evening was interrupted by an unexpected event. A sudden storm rolled in, bringing fierce winds and torrential rain. Lightning lit up the sky, followed by thunder that shook the ground beneath their feet. The power went out, plunging the cabin into darkness. "We need to secure the windows." Alex shouted over the noise, grabbing a flashlight. He and Mia quickly worked together, reinforcing the shutters and moving furniture away from the walls. The aliens followed their lead, using their own strength to hold things in place. Zix noticed a crack forming in the roof where the wind was pushing against it. Without hesitation, he climbed onto the cabin's sloped surface, bracing himself against the gale. Vren handed him pieces of wood, which he used to patch the gap. Kale stayed inside, holding a lantern to guide them through the chaos. For hours, the group fought to protect the cabin from the storm's fury. When the worst of it passed, they collapsed inside, exhausted but relieved. The fire had gone out, but Mia relit it using dry kindling she had stored in a waterproof box. The warmth slowly returned to the room, chasing away the chill. "You saved us," Maya said to the aliens, her voice filled with admiration. "Without your help, the cabin might not have held." Zix shook his head. "We couldn't have done it without you," he replied. "You taught us how to act when things go wrong." In that moment, the bond between them felt unbreakable. The aliens realized that their journey wasn't just about observing humanity. It was about becoming part of its story, if only for a short while. They had faced danger, shared meals, and worked side by side. These experiences had changed them in ways they hadn't expected. The next morning, the sky was clear, and the forest sparkled with dew. The aliens gathered outside, saying their final goodbyes. Zix stepped forward, holding out a small crystal device. "This is for you," he said, offering it to Mia. "It can heal wounds faster than anything on Earth. It's our way of saying thank you." Mia accepted the gift, her hands trembling slightly. "I'll treasure it," she said softly. "But I'll also remember what you've given us. Your trust, your friendship." Vren and Kale echoed Zix's gratitude, promising to share their experiences with others back home. As the shuttle hummed to life, lifting off into the bright blue sky, Alex and Mia stood watching until it disappeared from sight. "They'll never forget this place," Maya said, her voice full of hope. "Neither will we," Alex replied, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "Earth has a way of leaving its mark on people, even aliens. And as the two of them walked back toward the cabin, the forest seemed quieter, as if holding its breath. The aliens were gone, but the lessons they had learned and the connections they had forged would linger long after their departure. Vren sighed, shaking her head. "You're lucky Mia was here," she said. "Back home, machines would have fixed this instantly. Here, you depend on people." "And that makes all the difference," Alex interjected. "Humans don't rely on technology to solve every problem. We rely on each other." Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the group gathered around the campfire. The incident with Kel had sparked a deeper conversation about the differences between their worlds. Zix admitted that he had always assumed advanced tools made life easier. "But now I see," he said thoughtfully, "that relying too much on machines can make you weak. Humans are strong because you use your minds and hands." Mia smiled faintly. "It's not just about strength," she corrected him. "It's about adaptability. Humans have learned to survive in almost any environment, not because we're perfect, but because we're willing to learn and change." The aliens nodded, absorbing her words. They realized that Earth's challenges forced humans to grow in ways their own society never did. Back home, comfort and safety were prioritized above all else. Here, struggle and hardship shaped people into survivors. As the fire crackled softly, Alex shared another story, this time about a famous explorer who had crossed Antarctica alone. The man faced freezing temperatures, hunger, and isolation, yet he persevered. "He didn't do it for fame or glory," Alex explained. "He did it because he wanted to prove that humans could overcome anything." The aliens listened in silence, their respect for humanity deepening. For beings accustomed to sterile environments and automated systems, Earth felt raw and unpredictable. Yet it was precisely these qualities that made it so remarkable. Every challenge, every moment of fear, taught them something new about resilience and courage. By the time the fire burned low, the aliens felt a profound sense of gratitude, not just for Alex and Mia's guidance, but for the lessons Earth itself had given them. They knew their time here was limited, but the experiences they had gained would stay with them forever. This death world, as harsh as it was, had shown them what it truly meant to endure and thrive. The following days were filled with a mix of tension and quiet reflection. The encounter with the mysterious creature in the fog had left everyone shaken, but it also deepened the bond between the aliens and their human companions. Alex and Mia's calm leadership during the crisis had shown the aliens that survival wasn't just about reacting to danger. It was about staying prepared, working together, and trusting one another. One afternoon, as the group rested near a small stream, Cale decided to test his growing confidence. He had been practicing with the bow every day, determined to improve his aim. Now he wanted to try something new, climbing a tall tree to get a better view of the surrounding area. "I'll be careful," he promised when Vren gave him a worried look. "I just want to see how far we can go." Alex handed him a length of rope. "Tie this around your waist before you climb," he advised. "It'll keep you safe if you slip." Cale nodded and secured the rope, looping it around a sturdy branch. He began climbing slowly, testing each foothold before putting his full weight on it. The others watched from below, their expressions a mix of concern and curiosity. When Cale reached the top, he paused to take in the breathtaking view. From this height, he could see miles of forest stretching out in every direction, interrupted only by the occasional glint of sunlight on water. It was humbling to realize how vast and untamed Earth truly was. "Can you see anything interesting?" Zix called up. Cale squinted, scanning the horizon. "Not really," he replied. "Just trees and rivers. But it's amazing how big everything feels." As he started descending, however, disaster struck. One of the branches beneath him cracked under his weight, sending him tumbling downward. The rope caught him just in time, leaving him dangling several feet above the ground. His arm twisted awkwardly as he tried to steady himself, and a sharp pain shot through his shoulder. "I'm stuck," he shouted, panic creeping into his voice. Alex sprang into action, grabbing the base of the rope and pulling it taut. "Hold on," he yelled. "We'll get you down." Mia rushed over with her medical bag, ready to treat any injuries. Together, she and Alex lowered Cal gently to the ground. When they finally freed him from the rope, he collapsed onto the grass, clutching his injured arm. "Let me see," Maya said, kneeling beside him. She examined his shoulder carefully, noting the swelling and bruising. "It's not broken, but it's badly sprained." Using strips of cloth torn from Alex's shirt, she fashioned a sling to support Cal's arm. "You need to rest this for a few days," she instructed firmly. "No more climbing or hunting until it heals." Cal winced but nodded. "Thanks," he muttered. "I guess I got too ambitious." Once they were safe, Mia examined the aliens for injuries. Thankfully, no one was hurt. "That was close," she said, letting out a shaky breath. Zix looked at her, his expression serious. "How do you live like this?" he asked. "Always on edge, always facing danger." Mia hesitated before answering. "Because we have to," she said simply. "And because we're not alone. Humans stick together, especially in times like these." The aliens fell silent, reflecting on her words. Earth was indeed a harsh and unpredictable place, but it had shaped humanity into a species capable of incredible resilience. For the first time, the aliens realized that strength wasn't just about technology or physical power. It was about community, courage, and the will to survive against all odds. As the days turned into weeks, the aliens found themselves growing more confident in their ability to navigate Earth's challenges. They had learned to recognize signs of danger, use basic tools, and even start a fire without help. But there was still much they didn't know, and every day brought new lessons, some harder than others. One morning, Alex suggested they go hunting. "It's important to know how to provide for yourself," he explained. "Out here, food doesn't just appear on a plate." The aliens exchanged uneasy glances. Hunting sounded risky, especially since it involved confronting animals that could fight back. Still, curiosity outweighed fear, and they agreed to join him. Alex handed each alien a small bow and a quiver of arrows. The weapons were lightweight but sturdy, designed for precision rather than brute force. "You'll need to be patient," Alex instructed. "Wait for the right moment, then aim carefully." Vren frowned as she tested the string of the bow. "This feels fragile," she said. Back home, hunters used energy rifles that could take down prey from great distances with little effort. "It's not about power," Alex replied. "It's about skill. Anyone can pull a trigger, but mastering this takes practice." The group ventured into the forest, moving quietly through the underbrush. Alex taught them how to walk softly, avoiding twigs and leaves that might crunch underfoot. He also showed them how to read the environment, listening for rustling bushes, watching for movement, and identifying animal trails. After hours of waiting, Cale finally spotted a deer grazing near a cluster of trees. His heart raced as he raised the bow, trying to steady his trembling hands. He drew back the arrow and released it, only to watch it sail wide of its mark. The deer bolted, disappearing into the woods. Cale sighed in frustration. "I missed," he muttered. Alex patted him on the shoulder. "Don't worry," he said. "Even the best hunters miss sometimes. The key is to keep trying." Encouraged by Alex's words, the aliens continued practicing throughout the day. By sunset, Zix managed to hit a target, a wooden post Alex had set up earlier. Though it wasn't a living creature, the achievement filled him with pride. "I did it," he exclaimed, grinning widely. Mia smiled at his excitement. "Not bad," she said. "With more practice, you'll be ready for the real thing." That night, as they sat around the campfire eating dried fruit and nuts, the conversation shifted to stories of survival. Maya shared an experience from her past when she had been stranded in the wilderness during a snowstorm. She described how she built a shelter out of branches and kept warm by starting a fire with damp wood. I thought I wouldn't make it, she admitted. But I remembered what my father taught me. Stay calm, think clearly, and never give up. Zix listened intently, his glowing eyes reflecting the flickering flames. Your people are strong, he said quietly. You face so many hardships, yet you endure. Mia nodded. We don't have a choice, she replied. Life doesn't stop because things get hard. We adapt, we learn, and we keep moving forward. The next morning, the aliens woke to find heavy fog blanketing the forest. Visibility was poor, and the air felt thick and cold. Alex warned them to stay close, as getting separated in such conditions could be dangerous. As they made their way back toward the village, Vren noticed something strange, a faint humming sound coming from the trees. She paused, tilting her head to listen. Do you hear that? She asked. Zix and Kale stopped walking, straining their ears. Sure enough, the sound grew louder, vibrating through the mist. It was unlike anything they had encountered before, neither natural nor mechanical. Before anyone could react, a shadowy figure emerged from the fog. It moved swiftly, darting between the trees. Alex raised his rifle, signaling for everyone to stay quiet. The figure circled them cautiously, keeping its distance. What is it? Vren whispered, her voice barely audible. I'm not sure, Alex replied. But whatever it is, it's fast. Suddenly, the creature lunged toward them, revealing sharp claws and gleaming teeth. Alex fired a warning shot into the air, startling it long enough for the group to retreat. They ran back to the village, hearts pounding with adrenaline. The days passed quickly, and the aliens grew more comfortable around Alex and Mia. They began to notice small details about human behavior. The way Mia always seemed to carry her medical bag wherever she went, or how Alex kept his rifle close even during peaceful moments. These habits spoke of a readiness for anything, a constant awareness that danger could strike at any time. It was something the aliens hadn't fully grasped until now. Survival on Earth wasn't just about reacting to problems. It was about preparing for them before they happened. One evening, as the group sat around a campfire, Alex handed each alien a small knife. The blades were simple but sharp, with wooden handles worn smooth from use. Here, he said, you should learn how to use these. Zix examined the knife cautiously, turning it over in his long fingers. What are we supposed to do with this? He asked. Alex grinned. Everything, he replied. Cutting rope, preparing food, defending yourself. It's one of the most useful tools you can have out here. Mia nodded in agreement. A knife doesn't require batteries or signals, she added. It works no matter what. Kale looked skeptical. But it's so basic, he said. Back home, tools were powered by energy cells and operated with precision far beyond anything the human-made blade could achieve. That's the point, Alex explained. When everything else fails, something simple like this keeps you alive. To demonstrate, Mia showed them how to carve a piece of wood into a sharp point, creating a makeshift spear. She then used it to skewer a fish they had caught earlier that day. See, she said, holding up the fish. No fancy machines needed. The aliens watched in silence, their respect for human ingenuity growing. They realized that humans didn't rely on complexity to solve problems. They relied on practicality. Every tool, every method, served a clear purpose. Later that night, as the fire crackled softly, Vren turned to Mia. Do you ever feel afraid? She asked. Living in such an unpredictable place. Mia thought for a moment before answering. Sometimes, she admitted, but fear isn't always bad. It reminds us to stay alert, to think ahead. And when things get tough, we lean on each other. Zix tilted his head curiously. How do you decide who to trust? Mia smiled faintly. It's not easy, she said, but actions speak louder than words. If someone helps you without expecting anything in return, you know they're worth trusting. The next morning, the group decided to explore a nearby cave system. The entrance was narrow and dark, leading into a labyrinth of tunnels carved by water over centuries. Alex led the way, his flashlight cutting through the shadows. Maya followed closely behind, while the aliens brought up the rear, their glowing eyes providing additional light. As they ventured deeper, the air grew cooler and damp. Strange formations hung from the ceiling, stalactites dripping with moisture. Cal reached out to touch one, marveling at its texture. "This is incredible," he whispered. Suddenly, there was a loud rumble above them. Small rocks tumbled down from the ceiling, startling everyone. Six instinctively shielded his head, while Vren grabbed Cal's arm. "What was that?" she exclaimed. "Probably just settling ground," Alex said calmly, though his grip on the flashlight tightened. "Stay close and move carefully." They pressed on, navigating the uneven terrain with caution. At one point, the path split into two tunnels. Alex hesitated, glancing between them. "Which way?" Vren asked nervously. Mia knelt down, examining the ground. "This one," she said, pointing to the left. "The tracks are fresher here." Sure enough, as they continued down the chosen tunnel, they found signs of recent animal activity, scratches on the walls and droppings scattered across the floor. Alex stopped and held up a hand. "We should turn back," he said quietly. "Whatever made these marks might still be around." Reluctantly, the group retraced their steps, emerging from the cave just as the first drops of rain began to fall. The storm moved in quickly, forcing them to take shelter beneath a rocky overhang. As thunder rolled across the sky, the aliens huddled together, watching the downpour with wide eyes. "It's beautiful," Cale murmured, staring at the streaks of lightning illuminating the horizon. "And dangerous," Alex reminded him. "Nature can give life, but it can also take it away." By the time the storm passed, the aliens felt a renewed sense of understanding. Earth was a world of contrasts, harsh yet breathtaking, unpredictable yet full of opportunity. And humans, despite their limitations, thrived because they embraced both sides. For the aliens, this realization was profound. They weren't just learning how to survive on Earth. They were learning how to face uncertainty with courage and resourcefulness. It was a lesson they knew would stay with them long after they returned home. The days that followed were filled with quiet reflection for the aliens. Each encounter with Alex and Mia revealed new aspects of human life. How they adapted to challenges, how they worked together, and how they found meaning even in difficult situations. The aliens began to see Earth not just as a dangerous planet, but as a place where survival was an art form, honed over thousands of years. One afternoon, as the group rested near a small pond, they heard the sound of laughter echoing through the trees. Curious, they followed the noise and soon came upon a group of children playing near a dirt path. One boy, no older than 10, was riding a bicycle down a slight slope when he suddenly lost control. The bike tipped over, sending him tumbling onto the ground. His knee scraped against the gravel, leaving a nasty wound that immediately began to bleed. The boy sat up, tears welling in his eyes, but before he could cry out, Maya was already moving toward him. She knelt beside him, her voice calm and reassuring. "It's okay," she said gently. "Let me help." From her medical bag, she pulled out a small bottle of antiseptic and a clean cloth. She dabbed at the wound carefully, cleaning away the dirt and blood. The boy winced but didn't pull away. When the area was clean, she applied a bandage, pressing it firmly into place. "There," she said with a smile. "All better." The boy sniffled, brushing away his tears. "Thanks," he mumbled, his cheeks flushing with embarrassment. Mia ruffled his hair affectionately. "You're brave," she told him. "Now go easy on that knee for a while. All right." As the boy hopped back onto his bike and pedaled away, the alien stood nearby, watching silently. Zix turned to Vren and whispered, "Why does she do that? Help strangers so freely?" Vren shrugged. "Maybe it's part of being human," she replied thoughtfully. "They care about each other, even people they don't know. Kale nodded slowly. It's admirable, he admitted. Back home, we wouldn't waste time on something so small. Our machines would fix it instantly. But here, Six added, they use their hands, their minds. They make do with what they have. Later that evening, as the sun sank low in the sky, Alex and Mia invited the aliens to join them for dinner at Alex's cabin. The wooden structure was simple but cozy, with a crackling fire in the hearth and shelves lined with books and tools. On the table, Mia placed a hearty stew made from vegetables and herbs gathered earlier that day. The aroma filled the room, warm and inviting. "This is delicious," Kale said after taking his first bite. He had been hesitant at first, unsure if human food would agree with him, but the flavors were surprisingly pleasant. Mia grinned. "Glad you like it," she said. "Cooking is another way humans adapt. We use what's available and turn it into something nourishing." After the meal, Alex leaned back in his chair and began sharing stories about famous explorers and adventurers throughout history. He spoke of sailors who crossed vast oceans, climbers who scaled towering mountains, and scientists who ventured into unknown territories. His words painted vivid pictures of courage and determination. "The thing about humans," Alex explained, "is that we've always been driven by curiosity. Even when the odds are against us, we keep pushing forward. That's how we survive." The aliens listened intently, captivated by the tales. For beings used to relying on technology, the idea of facing such dangers without advanced tools seemed almost unimaginable. Yet there was something deeply inspiring about it, a testament to the strength of the human spirit. When the night grew late, the group stepped outside to gaze at the stars. The sky was clear, dotted with countless pinpricks of light. Zix tilted his head upward, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the glow. "Your world is harsh," he said softly, "but it has shaped you into remarkable beings." Mia smiled, wrapping her arms around herself against the cool breeze. "We don't always get it right," she admitted, "but we try, and sometimes trying is enough." For the aliens, this moment felt significant. They had come to Earth expecting to study humanity from a distance, to observe and report back. Instead, they found themselves learning lessons they hadn't anticipated, about resilience, community, and the power of adaptation. As they stood beneath the vast expanse of stars, they realized that Earth wasn't just teaching them about humans. It was teaching them about themselves. The following day, the aliens decided to venture a little farther into the forest, guided by Alex and Mia. They wanted to see more of Earth's natural world and understand how humans interacted with it. Zix's leg was healing well, thanks to Mia's careful treatment, though he still walked with a slight limp. Despite the pain, he refused to stay behind, eager to keep learning from their human companions. As they moved deeper into the woods, Mia pointed out animal tracks in the soft soil. "These belong to deer," she explained, crouching down to trace the outline of a hoof print. "And these smaller ones are from rabbits." She glanced up at the aliens, who were watching her intently. "Tracking animals is important if you want to find food or avoid danger." Kale tilted his head curiously. "How do you know which tracks mean danger?" he asked. Mia smiled. "You learn over time," she replied. "Some animals are harmless, but others, like bears or wolves, can be very dangerous. You have to pay attention to signs, like claw marks on trees or scat on the ground." Alex nodded in agreement. "It's all about being aware of your surroundings," he added. "Out here, staying alert can save your life." The group continued walking until they reached a rocky cliff overlooking a wide river. The water rushed past below, its surface shimmering in the sunlight. Vren stepped closer to the edge, peering down with fascination. "This place is beautiful," she said softly, "but also scary." "It's powerful," Mia agreed. "Rivers like this give life to the land, but they can take it away just as easily. People who aren't careful can get swept away." Zix frowned. "Why would anyone come here if it's so dangerous?" "Because it's worth it," Alex answered simply. The best things often come with risks. Inspired by the view, Cal suddenly announced that he wanted to climb the cliff face. I've never done anything like this before, he admitted, but I think I can do it. Vren immediately protested. Are you sure that's wise? What if you fall? Cal waved off her concern. I'll be fine. Just watch me. Before anyone could stop him, Cal began scaling the rock wall. At first, he moved confidently, finding handholds and footholds with surprising ease. But as he climbed higher, the rocks became slippery with moss, and the wind picked up, making the task more difficult. His movements grew hesitant, and his grip faltered. Be careful, Mia called out, her voice sharp with worry. Too late, Cal's foot slipped, and he tumbled backward, landing hard on a narrow ledge several feet below. He cried out in pain, clutching his arm as he struggled to sit up. Alex sprang into action, scrambling up the rocks to reach him. When he got there, he found Cal cradling his left arm, which was bent at an unnatural angle. Broken, Alex muttered under his breath. Turning to Mia, who had climbed partway up to assist, he shouted, "We need something to stabilize it." Mia quickly retrieved a sturdy branch from the ground and handed it to Alex. Together, they fashioned a makeshift splint, tying it securely around Cal's arm using strips of cloth torn from Alex's shirt. Cal winced throughout the process, but he didn't complain. He knew they were trying to help. When they finally brought him back down to solid ground, Vren rushed to his side. "Are you all right?" she asked anxiously. "I'll live," Cal replied through gritted teeth. Though clearly in pain, he managed a weak smile. "Guess I learned my lesson about taking risks." Mia knelt beside him, checking the splint one last time. "You're lucky it wasn't worse," she said firmly. "Next time, think twice before doing something reckless." Cal nodded sheepishly. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for fixing me." Mia patted his shoulder. "That's what we do out here. We take care of each other." The incident left a lasting impression on the aliens. They had always relied on advanced technology to heal injuries instantly, without pain or effort. Watching Alex and Mia use simple tools and raw determination to treat Kaler made them realize how much humans valued practical solutions. There was no magic, no shortcuts, just hard work and ingenuity. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the forest, the group started heading back toward the village. The aliens walked in silence, lost in thought. Earth was proving to be far more challenging than they had imagined, but it was also teaching them valuable lessons about resilience, teamwork, and the strength of the human spirit. For the first time, they began to truly appreciate why humans had earned their reputation as survivors in the galaxy's toughest environments. Over the next few days, Zix's injury became a turning point for the aliens. They had seen humans as primitive beings, limited by their lack of advanced tools and technology. But Mia's actions in the forest forced them to reconsider. Her ability to think quickly and act decisively, even with such basic supplies, left a deep impression on all three of them. It wasn't just her skill, it was her calmness under pressure, her focus, and her determination to help someone she barely knew. The aliens decided to stay closer to Alex and Mia, eager to learn more about how humans lived and survived in such a dangerous world. Each day brought new lessons, though not all of them were easy. One morning, Alex took them on a walk through the woods, showing them how to identify edible plants and avoid poisonous ones. He pointed out wild berries growing on bushes, warning them that some were safe to eat while others could make them very sick. "This one is good," he said, plucking a small red berry and popping it into his mouth. "But this one." He pointed to another bush with darker, shinier berries. "This will hurt you." Kale reached out to touch the shiny berries, his curiosity getting the better of him. Vren slapped his hand away before he could pick one. "Don't be foolish," she scolded. "We don't know enough yet." Alex chuckled at their exchange. "Smart move," he said approvingly. Always double-check before you eat something in the wild. Later that afternoon, Mita joined them and demonstrated how to start a fire using nothing but sticks and dry leaves. She knelt on the ground, rubbing two pieces of wood together until smoke began to rise. The aliens watched in awe as flames slowly came to life, flickering against the backdrop of the forest floor. Back on their home planet, fires were created instantly with energy devices. Watching Maya struggle with the process, her hands blistering slightly from the friction, was both humbling and fascinating. "You see," Maya said, wiping sweat from her forehead, "it takes time and patience, but once you get it, it's worth it." Zix nodded thoughtfully. "Your methods are slower than ours," he admitted, "but they work without machines. That's impressive." Mia smiled, pleased by the compliment. "Humans have been doing this for thousands of years," she explained. "We adapt. We figure things out. Sometimes we fail, but we always try again." As the sun began to set, Alex led them to a small stream where he showed them how to catch fish using a handmade spear. He waded into the water, moving quietly and deliberately. When a fish swam close enough, he struck with surprising speed, pinning it to the sandy bottom. The aliens gasped in amazement as he held up the wriggling creature, its scales glinting in the fading light. "Dinner," Alex announced proudly, tossing the fish onto the bank. Vren wrinkled her nose. "You eat these?" she asked, pointing at the fish. Alex laughed. "Best meal you'll ever have," he promised. "Fresh and healthy." That night, the group gathered around the campfire, roasting the fish over the flames. The smell filled the air, mingling with the scent of pine trees and damp earth. Zix hesitated before taking his first bite, unsure if he would like the taste. But when he did, his eyes widened in surprise. "It's good," he admitted reluctantly. Mia grinned. "Told you," she teased. For the aliens, these moments were eye-opening. They realized that human survival wasn't just about physical strength or clever tricks. It was about resourcefulness, teamwork, and resilience. Every challenge they faced seemed to bring them closer together, building trust between the two species. But there was still much to learn, and the aliens knew their journey was far from over. Earth continued to test them in unexpected ways, pushing them to adapt and grow. As they sat by the fire, listening to the crackle of burning wood and the distant calls of nocturnal animals, they couldn't help but feel a newfound respect for this strange, unpredictable world, and the humans who called it home. When they arrived, they found the three aliens huddled around Zix, who was lying on the ground. His leg was still trapped in the metal jaws of the snare. Mia dropped to her knees beside him, her expression calm but focused. "Let me see," she said firmly, motioning for the others to give her space. Alex stood nearby, keeping watch for any signs of danger. The forest was eerily quiet now, as if holding its breath. He gripped his rifle tightly, ready to act if needed. Mia examined the trap carefully, noting how deeply the teeth had sunk into Zix's leg. "This is bad," she muttered under her breath. Turning to Alex, she asked, "Do you have your pliers?" He nodded and handed her the tool. Mia worked quickly, prodding open the jaws of the trap just enough to free Zix's leg. The alien winced in pain, but didn't protest. Once the trap was removed, Mia inspected the wound more closely. The bleeding was steady, and the edges of the cuts looked jagged and dirty. "We need to clean this," she said, pulling a small bottle of antiseptic and a roll of bandages from her medical bag. "If we don't, it could get infected." Vren and Kale watched in stunned silence as Mia poured the liquid onto Zix's leg. He flinched violently, letting out another pained cry. The process was brutal, far rougher than anything they were accustomed to. Back on their home planet, injuries like this would be treated with advanced nanobots or healing chambers. But here, on this primitive world, Maya relied solely on her hands and basic tools. Despite the harshness of her methods, there was something undeniably effective about them. Within minutes, The bleeding slowed, and Mia began wrapping Zix's leg with a clean bandage. Her movements were precise and efficient, born from years of experience dealing with emergencies in the wilderness. As she finished, Zix looked up at her with wide, grateful eyes. "Thank you," he said softly, his translator struggling to convey the depth of his gratitude. Mia gave him a small, reassuring smile. "You're tough," she replied simply. "You'll be okay." For the first time since arriving on Earth, the aliens realized that survival here wasn't just about technology or intellect. It was about grit, determination, and the ability to adapt. And in that moment, they began to understand why humans had earned their reputation as survivors in the galaxy's harshest environments. The next morning, the aliens decided to explore the area around the human settlement. Zix, Vren, and Kel had spent most of the night exchanging quiet observations in their native tongue, trying to make sense of the humans they had met. Alex and Mia seemed friendly enough, but the aliens couldn't ignore the fact that this planet was far more dangerous than anything they had encountered before. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig made them jump. They were used to controlled environments back home, sterile, predictable, safe. Earth, however, felt like chaos wrapped in beauty. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the sunlight filtered through the thick canopy above, casting dappled shadows on the ground. The air smelled rich and earthy, filled with scents that were both foreign and intriguing. Kale wandered ahead, his curiosity getting the better of him. He stopped to examine a cluster of mushrooms growing near the base of a tree, marveling at their intricate shapes. "These are amazing," he whispered to himself, reaching out to touch one. Vren, ever cautious, stayed close to Zix. She kept glancing over her shoulder, as if expecting some unseen predator to leap out at any moment. "We shouldn't go too far," she said nervously. "This place is unpredictable." Zix nodded but didn't respond. His attention was focused on something ahead, a narrow path that seemed to wind its way deeper into the woods. It looked man-made, though it was overgrown with weeds and moss. "Maybe this leads to the village," he suggested, pointing toward the trail. Without waiting for agreement, Zix stepped onto the path. A few moments later, there was a sharp *snap* beneath his foot. Before anyone could react, a hidden trap sprang to life. Metal jaws clamped down around Zix's lower leg with terrifying speed, biting deep into his flesh. He let out a high-pitched cry of pain, stumbling backward as the force of the trap yanked him off balance. Vren and Kale rushed to his side, their faces pale with shock. "What is this?" Vren exclaimed, her voice trembling. "What happened?" Kale examined the device carefully, his antennae twitching in distress. "It's some kind of primitive mechanism," he said. "Designed to catch animals, I think." Zix groaned, clutching at his leg. Blood seeped through the puncture wounds, staining the ground beneath him. The pain was intense, and his breathing grew shallow. "We need to get help," he managed to say between gasps. "Now." Vren activated her wrist communicator, sending out an urgent distress signal. Back at the village, Alex and Mia noticed the faint hum of alien technology coming from their handheld scanner. Without hesitation, they grabbed their gear and headed toward the source of the signal. The alien shuttle descended silently through the thick clouds, its sleek metallic surface shimmering faintly in the pale sunlight. Below, the landscape of Earth stretched out like a chaotic patchwork: dense forests, winding rivers, and jagged mountains. For Zix, Vren, and Kale, this was their first glimpse of the planet known across galaxies as a death world. Their instructors had warned them about its unpredictable weather, aggressive wildlife, and harsh terrain, but nothing could have prepared them for the reality of standing on its soil. Their mission was simple: observe human culture and report back to their academy. As part of an intergalactic exchange program, they were tasked with understanding how such a primitive species had managed to survive, and even thrive, in such a hostile environment. The three aliens stepped cautiously out of their shuttle, their elongated limbs trembling slightly as they adjusted to Earth's gravity. It felt heavier than what they were used to, pulling at their bodies in unfamiliar ways. Zix raised his large, multifaceted eyes toward the sky, scanning for any signs of danger. "This place is strange," he said, his voice crackling softly through the translator device embedded in his throat. "It's so alive." Vren nodded, her slender antennae twitching as she tried to process the overwhelming array of scents carried by the wind. "Too alive," she replied nervously. "Every sound, every movement, it feels like it's watching us." Kale, the most curious of the trio, bent down to examine a cluster of wildflowers growing near the edge of the clearing where their shuttle had landed. He reached out tentatively, his long fingers brushing against one of the petals. "Fascinating," he murmured. "These organisms are far more complex than our simulations suggested." Before anyone could respond, a distant rumble echoed through the forest. The ground beneath their feet vibrated faintly, startling all three aliens. They froze, their heightened senses straining to identify the source of the disturbance. Was it some kind of predator, or perhaps a natural phenomenon unique to this volatile world? Moments later, two humans emerged from the trees. One was tall and broad-shouldered, with sun-weathered skin and a rifle slung over his shoulder. His name was Alex, though the aliens wouldn't learn that until much later. Beside him stood a woman with sharp green eyes and short brown hair tied back into a practical ponytail. Her name was Mia, and she carried a small medical bag strapped across her chest. Alex raised a hand in greeting, his expression cautious but not hostile. "You folks lost," he called out, his voice deep and steady. Mia stepped forward, studying the aliens with a mixture of curiosity and professionalism. She pointed to herself and said slowly, "Mia." Then she gestured toward Alex. "Alex." The aliens exchanged confused glances before Zix hesitantly mimicked the gesture. "Zix," he said, his voice distorted slightly by the translator. Vren and Kale followed suit, introducing themselves in turn. Despite the language barrier, there was an unspoken understanding between the two groups. Alex lowered his rifle slightly, though he kept it within reach. Mia smiled warmly, trying to put the nervous aliens at ease. She pointed to their damaged shuttle and then made a series of gestures indicating repair and assistance. For a moment, none of the aliens moved. They weren't sure whether to trust these strangers or retreat into the safety of their ship. But something about Mia's calm demeanor and Alex's steady presence reassured them. Slowly, Zix nodded, signaling their acceptance of help. As the humans led them away from the crash site, the aliens couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into something far bigger and far more dangerous than they had anticipated. This death world was already proving to be unlike anything they had ever encountered. And yet there was something oddly compelling about it, something that hinted at lessons they hadn't come here expecting to learn.